Namaskar everyone, welcome you all. Today we are going to have our 17th session of Srimad Bhagavad Gita with Sundarajanji. So over to Sundarajanji to continue our journey. Thank you, please.
Thank you, Ji. Namaste, everybody. And today we'll start with, after finishing chapter 14, 16, and 17, and portion of 18, we'll start with Karma Yoga. So now we are continuing with the summary that we saw of chapter 2. And before we start into Karma Yoga, please join me with the invocation. And I'll share my screen shortly. We'll start with the invocation and we'll proceed. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Welcome everybody to chapter 3 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And chapter 3 continues from Samkhya Yoga, where Bhagavan talks about the Sthita Prajna, Sikabhasha, and defines that Sthita Prajna is the highest level one can reach with respect to mental maturity or spiritual maturity. And Arjuna has a question following this. And even before we go into Arjuna's question, I just want to talk about the mindset of a Vidyarthi or a mindset of a learner. Traditionally in India, when a master talks about or teacher gives you knowledge, if and when you have a doubt, it is your responsibility to ask or clarify the doubt before you move on. You cannot just leave a gap open. And all of Indian learning or all of Indic learning is based on inquiries. It is self-inquiry or questioning, or you have the Purva Paksha and a Mimamsika or a Siddhanta style, but it's always debating, inquiring, questioning, and getting deeper into the subject. So I highly ask or encourage all of us to start asking questions as and when there is a doubt. Otherwise, we'll be left with our presumptions, and the presumptions will start building up rather than clarifications. So Arjuna's question here is, let me read the shloka and we'll talk about the actual questions. Shri Arjuna Uvacha Jyayasi Chet Karmanaste Matha Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava Vyameshreneva Vakyena Buddhim Mohayasiva Me Tadekam Vada Nishchityam Yena Shreyam Hamapnuyam Yena Shreyo Hamapnuyam. Okay. So Arjuna says, Jyayasi Chet Karmanaste. So Jyayasi, if something is higher, what is higher? Hey Krishna, you're telling me that Gnana is higher than karma. So Sankhya Yoga is all about, hey Arjuna, the highest is Gnana Yoga, but at the end he says, do your karma, do your duty, go ahead and fight. And Arjuna sees a conflict in this. On the one hand, you're telling me that Gnana is the highest path, and I was already ready to run away from the battlefield and go and take up sannyasa. And you are asking me, or you're telling me that that was the greatest path, yet go and fight. Now there is a conflict. So he says, Tat kim karmani gore mam niyojayasi keshava. Why are you pushing me or compelling me to go into the path of karma? And he also says, Vyamishrena eva vakyena. He doesn't say if it is Bhagavan or Krishna or a friend or a charioteer. He says, your talk, your logic is confusing because it is mixed. It's mixed logic. My mind is confused by your words. So please tell me the one thing, one definitive thing, which will help me become Shreyas, or which will help me or benefit me in the long run, right? Shreyas and Prayas. So that gives me the higher benefits. Please tell me that. And Bhagavan doesn't say, you are a fool, I am Bhagavan, you are a human being, and therefore you have to do. A good guru or a good coach has to take up the doubts that a person brings, analyze it from the person's viewpoint, the coach's viewpoint, and take them to the where they want to go. And I'm hoping that's all the things that we do with our kids, right? Usually, when I don't know about here, but in India, when I was growing up, when kids ask a question, parents or teachers used to say, no questions, just do what I say, or else, right? And that's the wrong way of teaching. The right way of teaching is to understand where the student is coming from and see that blocker that the person is facing and clarify, right? So, patience is very important for a teacher. And Bhagavan here has infinite patience. So, Bhagavan says, he opens with, there is no sugar coating. He says, लोकेऽस्मिन् द्विविधा निष्ठा पुरा प्रोक्ता मया नघ ज्ञानयोगेन साङ्ख्यानां कर्मयोगेन योगिनाम्. So there are two types of nishta. There are two paths that are prescribed by the Vedas. So here the word Veda is not used, but you have to kind of understand implicitly that lokeasmin, this in this loka, there are two types of nishta. One is Gnana Yoga, and that is for the Sankhyas, and Karma Yoga for the yogis. So, Sankhyas here are the mumukshus, people who have taken up the oath or are going towards moksha and are of a mindset where they have already done their karma, they have gained the experience enough, and now they are going towards the path of jnana. But those who are on the path to mumukshutva and people who are not yet ready are the yogis, the sadhakas, like all of us are sadhakas. And we have to take up karma yoga. Now, Bhagavan also gives you that distinction as to one path is for the jnanis, the other path is for the karmi, and Arjuna, you fall into the karma category. Now, if I tell you path A is the greatest, and you were already going there, but path B is what you have to do, how would you feel? You would feel great, right? So, to clarify this, I'll give you an example. So, karma and jnana are not different paths, so to speak. They are continuums, one leading to the other, right? So, karma is not required for jnanis or sankhyas, right? That's wrong, actually. Karma is essential for the yogis. So, I'll give you an example for this. You have to become a doctor. Becoming a doctor is great. Therefore, go to school and study. Do you see a conflict in this really? The answer is no, because we understand it. But for a person who doesn't understand the continuum between studying now and becoming employed later, they would see that as two different things and be confused. If I want to be a doctor, why should I go to school? Shouldn't I go and become a doctor right away? Right? The answer is no. In order to become a jnani, you have to have your antakarna shuddhi, or your antakarna should be pure. And in order for your antakarna to be pure, you have to do karma. And that's where it's coming from. For a yogi, it's all about cleansing of the antakaranas. Like last time we saw about the triguna, right? We took a self-assessment. And cleanliness of that and coming from a tamasic or a rajasic mentality or a mindset towards sattvic and preparing ourselves to become a jnani is what we have to do. And that's where the karma comes in, right? So another example would be in cooking. So think of karma yoga as the actual act of cooking, like cutting, chopping, making, dicing, and the whole cooking the food. And think of jnana yoga as eating the food. So question number one, if you keep on making food without eating it, it's of no use. But you cannot eat your food without making it, right? So there is no jnana without first doing karma at some point. You have to cleanse yourself before you start with jnana. But if you keep on doing karma without ever going towards the jnana yoga, it's of no use. You stagnate. So hope you understand this analogy before we move on. So jnana yoga is absolutely important, but hey Arjuna, you're not ready for it yet. Therefore, do karma. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of this? As we talked about before, Veda has Veda Vihita karma and Veda Nishiddha karma, meaning prescribed karma and things you should not do, right? And what is said is Vedas or even common sense talks about Papa and Punya. Last time or the times before, we have seen the Hindu definition or the Vedic definition of Papa and Punya. Anything that drags you down is a Papa. Spiritually, anything drags you down is Papa. And anything that uplifts or gets you towards your goal is called Punya. So, Veda Vihita Karma is required like Sadhyavadana, basically all the uh, karmas that you're supposed to do will detox and purify the antakarna. Your japa, tapa, kirtana, or your satsang, and all those things, dhana, yagna, everything is for purifying the atma or purifying the jiva and transforming you from the tamas to sattva. Now, what happens then is your mind becomes reflective, it becomes equanimous, it becomes stable at all times and doesn't react to external stimuli or triggers. So, when situations go wrong, you won't be worried about why me. You would say Ramji ki marzi or Bhagavan ka uh, so basically it's a wish of God, right? And you take it that way, but you don't get affected or despondent or worried or sad or depressed because of that, right? Once you surrender unto the Lord, or if you're a jnani, you say I take responsibility, action and reaction. But most of the people surrender is the easy way. Bhakti is the easy way. So once equanimity sets in, you understand the uniformity of the Atman. Atma is everywhere. So even to get to that point, you have to have your mind settled down. Otherwise, we start thinking of the world as me versus them. It's I and my, they and theirs, right? And once that sets in, you start walking in the path of jnana, and jnana leads to realization. So this is the whole of the necessity of karma yoga, getting Arjuna from where he stands to where he should be going. And this is the travel from chapter 3 to chapter 18 is this travel as to Arjuna being the karmi that sees Duryodhana and Bhishma and Drona and all as external and wants to leave and run away. Now, question is, Arjuna wanted to run away. He could have run away and become a sannyasi, become a jnani. He could have done the jap, tap, and all those things. So, how about that? For that, the next shlokas come in. So, here Bhagavan talks about, hey Arjuna, even though karma is great for you, you cannot run away from this battlefield because न कर्मणामनारम्भान् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न हि न हि कश्चिक्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्मकृत् कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः. So Bhagavan gives it in two beautiful shlokas. He says, "Na karmanam anarambhan." So if, just because you don't begin the karma, so a person can give up karma in two ways. He says, "I don't want to take it up," or he'll take it up and midway give it and run away. Okay. So just because you don't take up karma, it doesn't mean that you will become a sannyasi. Or just because you give it up halfway, like what you're doing now, you come to the battlefield ready to fight and you're dropping your Gandiva and you're running away. Now, that doesn't guarantee that you'll become a Siddha or Siddhi is accomplished, right? What is the best way? So, he talks about the first thing you cannot leave your karma. Veda has given you, and this is again going back to the whole idea of reincarnation or incarnation for human beings. Incarnation means based on your previous karma, based on your previous vasanas or your prarabdha, you're given a particular body. For some reason or the other, Ishvara has placed you in this particular body, has given you this surrounding, and put you in a particular spot. Like you're in Vancouver or you're in, wherever you're listening from. So you are in that place and you're listening to this as a human being and you got a human birth. The question is, this is because of previous karma. Now you say, I'm going to throw all that away and going to start doing things I like doing, that things that are distracting me, my friend circle or my gossips or whatever it is the selfish nature that starts taking up, right? Or starts rising. Now, how do you stop it? If you don't stop it, it is going to consume you. You become a what is called a Samskrita Manushya, a person without restraint. So Bhagavan says just because you give up karma by logic or reasoning or just reading a couple of books, you say, this is not for me, that doesn't make you great, right? What you have to do is do your karma properly, but without attachment. So, second shloka says, Na hi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtati akarma krita. So, none of us can stop karma even for a second, right? Because we are impelled. Think of us as running fast, right? We're all running in the Jiva Yatra very fast. And it's impossible for us to stop and say, okay, now I've become a sannyasi. The momentum that has been pushing you so far in a particular direction will keep continuing and pushing you in that direction. So let's say somebody is tamasic. The tamasic activities will still keep pushing you in that same direction until you slowly turn and become a rajasic and slowly become a sattvic. So you cannot stop what you're doing, but what you can do is bring that, hyavasha karma. Hyavasha has without vasha, without ability. Prakriti jair gunaihi. And these things that are inborn into you, those nature will impel you in that direction. Then he's coming into the solution as to what you can do. Now, many people, they say, okay, now my mind is thinking of all those things, I'm worrying and all, but for sake of sadhana, I'm going to sit quiet and I'm going to do my job and uh, I'm going to become a sannyasi. Okay. But your internal imaginations, for example, let's say somebody is thinking constantly about, say, rasagullas. That's the easiest example for me. Or some craving that you have. Even while you're doing Ram Nam, you're still thinking of your cravings or you're thinking of your evil thoughts. But outwardly, you are a sadhaka, but inwardly, you have all those thoughts in your mind that you otherwise would have had freely roaming around, like sitting in your sofa. So Bhagavan says to that, कर्मेन्द्र कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारस्य उच्यते यस्तु इन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभतेऽर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते. So Bhagavan says कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य. So the five karmendriyas, you have jnanendriyas and you have karmendriyas. But in this case, controlling your vak, pani, padam, payu, upastha, and your jnanendriyas also, let's say, a person who thinks about all the activities he or she wishes to do, right? Without restraint, only bodily restraint is there. So I'll constrain myself from doing the actions, but in my mind, I'm still craving for it. Such a person is called a hypocrite. Mithyacharaha, hypocrite. Indriyarthan vimudatma, the person who doesn't understand how the indriyas work. And that kind of a hypocrite is that person, right? Now, what is the best way then? If I, well, my intentions are pure, I want to become sadhaka, I want to become, I want to have moksha. But Bhagavan is telling me that having those kind of thoughts is bad, and that makes me a hypocrite. Should I give it up and go back to my regular, openly, outwardly doing all the bad things I was doing? Right. So if that is the question, then Shloka 3.7 comes into play. So the best way, hey Arjuna, you don't have to give up, because on the first day you sit for meditation or sadhaka and all the sadhana and all those things, you definitely are going to have the bad, evil thoughts pull you out or pull you in the direction it wants to go. So what should you do? Indriyani, manasa indriyani niyamya. So using your mind as your friend, you have to control your indriyas, jnanendriyas and karmendriyas, right? And using that control with the mind, you have to start your karma yoga. And that is great. So karmendriyahi karma yogas asakta savishishyate. Asaktaha. Asakta has unattached to. So without attachment, you have to engage. And when you do that, Engaging without attachment, it purifies your antakarana. Antakarana, we all know, is mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Right? And what kind of karma can you do? So is it just playing football for an hour? I don't know what karma it is, right? So somebody would say, I don't know what karma it is. So for Arjuna, should I start shooting arrows 10 times a day? I can go back to Hastinapura now. I can start shooting 10 arrows a day. But that doesn't give me anything, right? So Bhagavan says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmadhyayo karmanaha sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyeta karmanaha. So niyatam kuru karmatvam. Like niyatam, like whatever karma has been given to you, because of your previous janmas and what Ishvara has given you. So he's put you in a particular way. You're a father, you're a mother, you're a daughter, you're a son, you're a neighbor. However you can help people, or however you can help society, however you can help your ancestors. So the Pitru Runa, or the Deva Runa, Rishi Runa, Bhuta Runa. So the Pancha Mahayagnas, you can start doing. And those will be the way for your salvation or upliftment, right? Now, there's no question as to how you can do or where you can start. Any start is a good start. Even stopping the fight within the family is a good one. Like stop shouting at the people, right? Or stop being irritated at people. So that's a small yajna, but that helps improve the peace and calmness in the family. Then it comes to the society. Then it comes to the country. Then it comes to the world, right? So finally, what happens is you gain the spiritual maturity to have a presence of calm wherever you go. A person with that presence, no matter where they go, for example, Buddha. Most of you would have heard about Angulimala, who was a terrible person who was cutting, or who was killing people who were passing by a forest. And he happens to meet with Gautama Buddha. And on seeing him, within one or two exchange of sentences, Angulimala becomes Buddha's disciple, because he sees that Buddha is not afraid of Angulimala and he has never been used to that. And a transformation comes over. So if you as a personality, if your personality is the one that can offer calm, the whole world will feel that calm whenever you go or wherever you go, right? But if you're a person who irritates other people, then whenever you go, wherever you go, people will have the same reaction. So it's your core personality. And this is something I tell my kids. It doesn't matter if it's a good company or a bad company, especially if you're having kids who will be in teenagers. One of the fear that parents have is, will they go into bad company? It doesn't matter. If your character is strong, then the people who are strong character will go and change the company. Otherwise, the company will change you, right? So it's like Narada going and meeting Valmiki. So it doesn't matter that Ratnakara was a robber. The contact helped uh, Valmiki become a good person. Or if Narada was weak, he would have become a highway robber himself. So either way. Okay. Now, talking about, now Bhagavan brings you, Bhagavan has talked about the karma is indispensable and you have to do your nitya karma, niyata karma. Then he brings you into what is called yagna. Now we talked about yagna when we were seeing chapter 17, right? And chapter 18, yagna dana tapak karma. So he says, यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्म बन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गः समाचरः. Yajnarthat, I'm sorry. So other than yajna, all other actions cause bondage, right? Yajnarthat karmano anyatra. So basically, do all your actions as yajna, as sacrifice. Now, this sacrifice doesn't mean sitting around yajna kunda or homagni and pouring ghee into it. As we come into chapter 4, we'll see the different kind of yajnas. There are about 9 shlokas that talks about yajna. One of it is Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi. Then you have the pranayama yajna. right? Then you have the Shrotra Yajna and all those things. So everything that you do it with a Samarpana Bhava or Yajna Bhava. So I think there was a WhatsApp forward a long time ago. I couldn't find it, but it says that once you have this Yajna Bhava in you or Bhakti in you, then food becomes prasad, hunger becomes fasting, singing becomes kirtan, and action becomes service. And the list goes on. But you get the idea. Every action that you do it with a Samarpana Bhava or Yajna Bhava, and do it not with your, don't do it with a selfish motive that I should benefit out of it. Do it with, it's because it has to be done, and it's because Bhagavan has intended me to do it. So it's Ramji ki kripa, Ramji ki daya. Simple. And that becomes a yajna in itself. For example, I'll give you an example. Now, driving a car, is that karma? Well, basically, is it good karma or bad karma? It's nothing, right? It's just karma. But if I'm driving the car, taking somebody to a hospital, it's a good karma. If I'm driving a car to hurt somebody or to run into somebody, that's bad karma. It's all driving the car, right? But the intention precedes the action. So it's not the karma that you do, but it's the karma that you intend that is more important, right? Same thing, with a soldier. Killing in itself, if I ask you, is killing a bad thing or a good thing? Well, it depends. As a soldier, if you kill somebody or in a tough situation, you'll be given a medal, right? And the same soldier, if he's killing somebody in a mall after coming back in a fight, he'll be arrested, right? So it's not the killing or not the soldier, even for the same person. The context matters more. So it is not the karma, it is the intention and the context which precedes before the actual karma happens. So whenever you're doing a karma, think of it. Is it benefiting you spiritually and uplifting you? Or is it maintaining you on the same level? Or is it pushing you down? And that will define the karma yoga, right? If it is actually um, purifying your antakarana, then it's good karma. That is the kind of karma you want to do, and that is the yajna bhava, right? So here Bhagavan, okay, even before I proceed, so he says yajnarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha. In this loka, it is bandhan. So basically, this is it causes bondage. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So do all your karma without any sangha, without any bondage or without any attachment. And that is the best kind of karma that you can do. Okay. Now, this passes from practical to spiritual or philosophical. Now, I cannot bring any of these shlokas into how it happens today, but I will just talk about it as written in the Bhagavad Gita and as Bhagavan mentioned it, right? And this follows a very Hindu or Sanatana Dharma way of the creation of the world. Okay. So Bhagavan says, Saha yajna praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam eshavostvishta kamadukam. So Bhagavan says, Saha praja srishtva. I mean, a long time when creation began, or creation of the world began, Brahmaji created human beings or created us along with Yajna. So the Yajna Bhava was also born when the universe was created. Okay. And Brahmaji says, perform this Yajna and prosper. And this will provide you everything that you want. It is your Kamadenu, right? So performing the Yajna is your Kamadenu. So do everything with the Yajna Bhava. And when you give it back to society, society gives it back to you. And that is how society runs. So it'll be a give society rather than a take society. So give take is also somewhat okay, but it's not an idealistic. Give a super idealistic relationship, and a take is the worst kind, and that's what's happening in the world today. So today, instead of giving, everybody is selfish. The moment you stop giving, things stagnate. And what's happening now is people are grabbing from nature. The oceans are being depleted, the forests are being burnt, right? And corruption is rampant not because of anything else, but selfishness has increased. Because selfishness of me and my has increased, there's corruption, there's depletion, there's war. All that comes because of ego and selfishness. I have to win rather than we have to win, right? And this is what this shloka says, that in the beginning, the concept was, let us all prosper together and let us all start out with a yajna bhava. So Brahma said to everybody, start with a yajna bhava. And human beings, I mean, in this shloka, it doesn't say human beings have failed, but I'm saying they have failed or they're degraded since Kali started. Okay. Now, Brahmaji continues and he says, Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreya param avapsyata. So he says, Devas, I mean, by your yajna bhava or doing your yajnas, it will please the Devas. And Devas who are pleased by your yajna will protect you. And this is a cycle. So you please the Devas, and Devas please you, and you please the Devas. So it's kind of a cycle that happens continuously without a broken chain. And by this happens a long-term benefit for the universe. The universe has dharma installed in it, right? Dharma in the beginning of the Krita Yuga it was standing on 4 feet. The Treta Yuga on 3 feet, Dwapara Yuga 2, and in Kali it stands on 1 feet and 1 foot, unfortunately. And by the looks of what we see outside, even that is doubtful because cruelty has increased, all the asura tendency has increased. Unfortunately, this has become a norm unless we change ourselves or we become the agents of change and start spreading the yajna bhava to everybody. Now, that is something we can do. Like sitting home, that's not much we can do. We can look at the world and cry about it, or we can get up and change the world by spreading the yajna bhava, meaning the idea that stop being selfish, start being cooperative, right? At least that if that one idea starts, all that patents will be gone. So the COVID vaccine patents that's happening now is because the companies want something out of it. Fair price is okay. You don't have to charge 10 times the price. Charge 2 times if you want profits. So the thing is, humanity becomes more important than my survival or somebody else's survival. So that is what we're talking about when we talk about yajna bhava, right? Very simple, common sense, but it's amazingly well said in all the shlokas. And next, he says, again, this is Prajapati saying, Ishtan bhogan hi vo deva dhasyante yajna bhavitaham tair dathanna pradayabhyo भुंक्ते स्तेन एव सह sorry तैर्धत्तान्न प्रदायैभ्यो यो भुंक्ते स्तेन एव सह. So here he says ishtan bhogan hi vo devan. So the devas who are satisfied with the yajna will grant all the desires like the Kamadhenu grants to mankind, and not just to mankind, to nature. And those who stop the cycle, and like I said earlier, and become selfish and start consuming only for themselves without sharing or without giving back or hoarding and grabbing are thieves. Stenaha, thief, right? They are thieves who are hindering the path of dharma. Okay. And this is all told to Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna is in a very selfish mindset. Even if he wants to run away, it is not for the greater good. He wants to run away for himself, not to protect dharma. His Arjuna's running away is not going to make a difference in protecting dharma, but it is going to make the Pandavas lose, right? So there, it's very important for him to understand the Yajna Bhava. Okay. Now here's this next shloka, continuing on the same lines. It says, Yajna Seshtashina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kelbishaihi Bhunjate Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat very important. It says Yagya Sishtashinaha. Like people who are Yagya Sishta, basically who are performing the yajnas without attachment, and those kind of pious people, the Santaha, they consume, they muchyante sarva kilvishahi. They let go of all kind of papas, all kind of impurities. So doing the yajna without attachment and being a pious person releases you from all kind of impurities. But those who consume for themselves, pachanti atmakaranat, one who cooks for themselves, but in this case I'm using the cook as consuming for themselves, are actually consuming the papa, right? So their next janma or the jiva yatra will become more tamasic or more rajasic, and will go towards a downfall rather than an upliftment. And that is the spiritual journey from a karma point of view. And this is very important to understand. And I have not gone beyond this to the other shlokas, because that is very important. Those are the cycle of karma. So basically, annad bhavanti bhutani, parjanyat, anna sambhavaha. Those are very important as a topic in itself. So I thought we'll stop with this and then open it up for questions as to how yajna bhava, detachment, collaborates with karma and purifies the antakarana. So let's say the closing shloka, and then we'll open it up for the questions. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम